Do you believe that Rick Santorum is Christian?
Oh, I think so.
So how do you know? If the standard is only the person knows what's within him, when you apply it to the president, why is it different for Rick Santorum?
Well, because his values are so clear on moral issues, no question about it. And I just appreciate the moral stand that he takes on these things.
That is an amazing double standard that you just applied. Your reaction to that's really set that up. Your reaction to the difference, the question about Rick Santorum and President Obama, I think just exposes an incredible double standard you're applying to those two people. They're exactly the same situation.
Some of the contentious moments this week when Reverend Franklin Graham joined the Morning Joe crew on MSNBC. That was all about, Jim, the questioning about whether Barack Obama is a Christian versus Rick Santorum. Graham said he didn't know about the president. Was this an appropriate line of questioning or just an attack job?
Well, it was, as Graham said, Franklin Graham, went on the show to talk about the persecution and murder of Christians all across the world, including places like South Sudan, which Ellen Ratner has been an ally of Reverend Graham on this issue in terms of protecting,
on that issue,
mass
but
murder.
not on another issue that he's doing.
Okay, fair enough. But the thing is, he was there to talk about people getting murdered and killed and raped, and all MSNBC wanted to talk about was these faith questions, which admittedly Graham didn't handle particularly well, but it was definitely an ambush in terms of what he thought he was going to get on and what ended up being talked about. And what was also remarkable, of course, was how the media jumped on it. The media couldn't care less about the persecution of Christians around the world, and that they did rocket to the top with all this stuff by Graham all across the media.
I will agree with Jim. I mean, on that particular issue, that the media doesn't care about persecution of Christians of religious faith, and I certainly see that in South Sudan. I mean, that's absolutely true. On the other hand, you have someone like Mediaite that comes out and basically said, well, he's using some of the politics. He should have just said, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm here to talk about this.
All right. Graham has also said that the president has done more for Muslims and Islam than he has, in some respects, for Christianity. Terrence Jeffrey on Human Events said essentially the same thing, that inadvertent burning of the Quran brought a direct apology from the White House where, for instance, the Catholic birth control edict from the Obama administration.
Well, but our very own Dana Perino did a very similar apology from the White House podium when there was some other kinds of incidents exactly like that under the Bush administration.
Is there a double standard from the White House when it comes to Islam versus Christianity?
Well, I'm not going to get into that. You talk about a double standard, though. Let me say two things about this. First of all, there's a double standard when it comes to preachers. You've got Reverend Wright, you've got Al Sharpton, you've got Jesse Jackson, who would never be questioned about their theology or anybody else's. That's one thing. The other thing is that Franklin Graham, who is a good man and doing a lot of great work around the world, should take a lesson from his father. Every time his father got involved in politics, whether it was Richard Nixon or whatever, it tainted his primary call. When you come down from the mountaintop and you go to the valley of politics, then you've got to expect this kind of stuff.
Chris Matthews said he ain't his father's son.
I'm getting an amen from Judy.
I think that captures it. He ain't his father's son, and he does use twist religion to suit his politics, and I think that has hurt him.
Unlike Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, of course.
We're not talking about them. They weren't on TV at that moment.
At that moment, yes, okay.
But what about, again, what about the issue that Graham went on air to talk about? I mean, a Christian minister in Iran who has been sentenced to death.
He should have said, I didn't come here to talk about that.
That's right,
That would have changed the dynamic instead of answering the question.
That's what we always tell people to do on talk radio. Just say,
But if he had tried to stick to his message of Christian persecution, it would have been a very brief segment, and I guarantee even Fox News Watch wouldn't be talking about it. We'd be,
All right.